Have you ever really thought about the coins in your pocket? I mean, where did the idea even come from? It's something we totally take for granted, but somebody, somewhere, had to invent it. Well, today we're jumping in a time machine and heading back almost 2,700 years to a small but super wealthy kingdom that created a piece of technology that would, quite literally, change the world forever.
All right, so to really get this, we've got to ask a super simple but really important question. What actually makes a coin a coin? What's the real difference between just a random lump of gold and the change you'd get at a store? The answer to that is the key to this entire story.
You know, to appreciate just how much of a breakthrough coinage was, we first have to picture the world without it. It was a world that ran on metal, for sure, but it was pure, raw, and honestly, pretty frustrating.
So imagine this. For hundreds of years, if you wanted to buy something, you'd use these rough chunks of gold or silver. Every single time you made a purchase, you'd have to bring out a scale, weigh the metal. It was slow, it was a pain, and it led to a ton of arguments.
And this right here, this just lays out the core problem perfectly. With raw metal, you're always second-guessing. Is it really pure? Is the weight right? Every single transaction starts with a debate. But a true coin, it answers all those questions before you even have to ask. The purity is guaranteed, the weight is standardized, and the value is trustworthy. It's a whole different ballgame.
So, who was it that finally solved this massive headache? Well, let's meet the innovators. For that, we're heading to the ancient kingdom of Lydia.
Lydia was in the perfect spot, right at a major crossroads for trade and new ideas. It was wealthy, it was connected, and it became this, incubator for experimentation. And it was right here that one of the most important economic inventions in all of human history was born.
So, the Lydians started with this really tricky material called electrum. Now, electrum is a natural mix of gold and silver. The problem was the amount of gold versus silver could be totally different from one nugget to the next. That made its value, well, a bit of a guessing game. And that was the exact problem they set out to fix.
And their solution was just brilliant in its simplicity. It was like a three-part recipe. First, you take your precious metal, in this case, electrum. Second, you measure it out into a fixed standard weight. And third, and this is the absolute game changer, you stamp it with an official seal of authority. Now, this didn't all happen overnight. You had a few key players pushing it forward. A king named Aegean is the one who really gets the ball rolling with these first electrum coins. Then his son, the legendarily rich king Croesus, comes along and perfects the system. And from there, the massive Persian Empire picks it up and basically helps it go viral across the ancient world.
I mean, what a simple but powerful shift, right? You go from arguing over this questionable piece of metal that you have to constantly test to just accepting a sealed official token. You're not trusting the metal anymore, you're trusting the stamp.
But the story doesn't stop with those wonky electrum coins. Nope. The next big leap came when King Croesus decided to take his dad's pretty good idea and make it absolutely airtight.
Yeah, you've probably heard that old phrase, as rich as Croesus. Well, this is the guy. And he became a legend not just for having a ton of gold, but for his brilliant idea on how to use it to create a currency system that was way more precise and reliable.
See, Croesus looked at the system and spotted the one remaining weakness, the electrum itself. Its value was still a little fuzzy. So, he made a radical move. He ditched electrum altogether and started making separate coins of pure gold and pure silver. Boom. Suddenly, the value was crystal clear. This was the jump from just a good idea to a truly precise system.
And what about that all-important official stamp? Well, for Lydia, it was the symbol of the king himself, a roaring lion. And that picture was way more than just a pretty decoration. It was a message.
And this is so crucial to understand. That stamp transformed a simple piece of metal into two things at the exact same time. For merchants, it was an economic tool, a guaranteed unit of value. But it was also a political statement, a tiny little billboard that broadcast the king's power and authority wherever that coin traveled.
You know, an idea this powerful, there was just no way it was going to stay put in one small kingdom. This Lydian invention was about to go global.
And once the idea was out, man, it just spread like wildfire. It was like watching dominoes fall. Lydia creates it, the massive Persian Empire adopts it and spreads it far and wide. From there, it makes its way to the Greek cities and all across the Mediterranean, and eventually it becomes a basic building block for economies all over the world.
And here's a fun little fact. These first world-changing coins, they looked nothing like the money in your wallet. They were these small, lopsided kind of bean-shaped lumps of metal. They looked pretty crude, really, but the idea behind them was pure genius.
So why did this thing catch on so fast? Because it was a silver bullet that solved a ton of different problems for a ton of different people all at once. It gave trust to merchants, it gave a symbol of power to rulers, and it just made trade faster and easier for everybody, from the richest trader to the person just buying a loaf of bread.
And look, if you take away just one single thing from all this, let it be this right here. Money is a technology. That's it. It's not a natural resource we dug up. It's a tool, a piece of software almost, that humans invented to solve a very specific problem, the problem of trust.
That little stamped piece of metal from ancient Lydia changed everything. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What seemingly small invention, maybe something that even looks a little crude or experimental to us right now, is about to completely change our world in ways we can't even begin to imagine.